Drug or substance abuse has a major impact in a child's life, and it is the responsibility of the parent to be able to decode when a child exhibits some character that can be linked to the abuse of drug or substance of any kind. When this is detected early, it helps to control or totally destroy that in the child before it gets out of hand. And that is what we shall be talking about today: drug abuse or substance abuse in a child's life. Hello everyone, welcome to True Mother's Tears. My name is Zaina Mahmood. I'm a grief loss and a parenting coach. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and the bell on notification to be notified whenever there is a new video from us. And if you've been with me from the onset, thank you so very much. Like, I never get tired of saying thank you. I pray that I become a big blessing to you, just the same way you have been to mine. Today we shall be talking about drug or substance abuse in the life of a child. Recently, I was discussing with a friend on how a parent can detect the abuse of drug or substance in a child. And then it made me to start researching on what are those things that we should easily notice in our kids, so that we can quickly relate it to drug abuse, and as such we'll be able to handle it before it gets out of hand. So these are some of the things we'll be discussing today. There are so many things as a parent you notice about a child, but when you start noticing some certain things in a child, then it calls for extra caution on your part as a parent. The first one I'll be discussing is changes in physical appearance. As a parent, when you notice an unusual change in the dressing of a child or lack of physical hygiene, then it's something that we should really be concerned about. You know, we all know as parents, you know how your child has always been. If you've always had a child that cares most about his or her physical appearance, and as such take utmost attention to be sure that he looks good or looks very tidy and neat when he or she comes out, then all of a sudden you start seeing the child not caring about his scruffiness or untidiness or looking very dirty, then it's something you should be worried about, because this is a child that you have always noticed that wants to look good and clean, and all of a sudden these changes are coming up. It's something you should look into, maybe probably find out why the child is now doing that. The second one I want to talk about is sudden shift in social circle. We know sometimes as our kids grow up, we tend to know the kind of friends they keep, or we know who those people, the people they relate with. But all of a sudden, when you notice that your child no longer wants to move in the circle he or she has been with, now prefers to move with some certain circle and wants to keep that circle away from you, that is something you should pay more attention to and find out why that is happening. Because if it's supposed, sometimes our kids might be battling with issues that comes up with teenage, and as such might want to change the circle of friends he or she has. That sometimes is okay, but when the child wants to keep the friends, the new circle of friends, away from the parents or away from the family members, then it's something we should try to give more concentration to know why that is happening. The third one I want to talk about is unexplained mood swing. When you notice that your child now all of a sudden gets angry easily, or gets anxious, or gets hyperactive easily, then, and that is a character you have never known with that child, then it's something you should take your time to observe and find out why that is happening. You should not just peg it on maybe adolescent age, that's why he's having mood swing. Fine, it comes up with adolescent age. That is, if your child is within the age of an adolescent, then you should, it comes up, sometimes it comes up with that age, but there are times where you now have to, give a keen observation to it to know why exactly that kind of mood swing is happening more often. Then you can easily detect if he's relating to substance abuse, because that is one of the major signs drug abuse brings up in a child. The next topic is defensive or being overly sensitive. When you notice your child overreact over some certain issues or get defensive when you ask him or her about some certain questions, then it's something you should give more concentration to. Because normally when you ask a child about a child that has nothing that his or her hands are clear about substance or drug abuse, when you ask that child a question, the child gives you the answer to that question, even if it's a response that you don't like, but the child does not become totally defensive about that question, because it's just something basic you might want to know from the child, like why are you coming late, or why are you doing this, or why are you scratching, there are some things you just ask the child, and the child, you expect a normal response from the child. But when you see that the child is getting very defensive or sensitive about a basic question, then it's something you should give more concentration to. Another point I want to point out is when your child becomes distant and wants to be isolated always. We all know, like I've been saying, we all know how we raise our kids. We all know the character of our kids. But when all of a sudden your child wants to stay alone, wants to remain indoors, does not want to associate or socialize with other people, other friends or family members, then it's something you should go and speak with the child about. Because it might be that the child is now wants to keep to him or herself, because it gives the child the time and the opportunity to be able to engage in drug or substance abuse. Because when people are around, they will easily notice that about the child and possibly come to report to you. But because this child wants to be alone, and by being alone you can get away with so many things, then you find that the child will want to be in isolation every time. So when you notice that about the child, your child wanting to be in isolation without any reason, and that, or refusing or to be distant from everybody, then it's something you should have a talk about with him or her. Another point I want to point out is depression. When you notice your child not getting happy again, always moody, having mood swings, not wanting to have anything to do with anyone, easily getting angry, then you should take your time to observe or find out why that is happening. Because one of the things drug or substance abuse bring about is depression. When a child is engaged in drug or substance abuse, after a while, substance wears out, the child most of the time falls into depression and when the effect of the drug or substance wears out, the child can sometimes fall into depression. So when you now find out that your child is unusually unhappy, depressed most of the time, find out why this is happening. Don't peg it on adolescent, teenage age, or that's what happens to teenage. Sometimes, yes, it does happen, but when it's happening more often, then it's something you should look at on why it happened. The next point is when your child is being secretive and deceitful. When you notice that your child starts hiding things from you, finds it very difficult to answer a question very quickly, gives you an indirect answer, and make excessive excuses, then it's something you should take a clearer look at. Because when a child starts getting deceitful in his or her character, and this is not something that the child always do, then it's something you should give more attention to. And again, when the child now keeps to him or herself in the bedroom, locks it to avoid a discussion with you, then you know that there's something up. Another point is drastic weight loss. When your child suddenly, for no reason, that this child is not on diet, that this child is not engaged in excessive exercise, and all of a sudden he or she drops weight, then it's something you should find out why this is happening. Because drastic weight loss is one of a sign of drug or substance abuse. Another point I want to talk about is when your child appears and disappears at will. When your child now suddenly leaves the house, doesn't tell anyone where he or she is going, stays as long as he or she wants to, and then comes back when he or she feels like, then it's something you should find out why this is happening. If you've noticed the pattern of your child, maybe your child, before he or she goes out, comes to tell you and tells you exactly where she is going to, and tells you how long he or she is going to be away, then as a parent, that this is the time you're expecting him or her to be at home. But when the child suddenly leaves without telling you, and there may be something you need to tell the child something, or you get an information from the child, that is when you realize that your child is no longer with you at home, and then you wait. You don't know when this child will come back. He might come back very late at night without offering you an explanation to where he or she has been and why he or she is coming at such late time of the day. Then you know that child might be engaged in something that he or she wants to keep away from you. So as such, you should take your time out to investigate on why this is happening before it gets out of hand. Another point is when your child no longer wants to hang around no longer wants to participate in family activities. There are so many family activities that we all engage in, that we know in our different homes that we do. Maybe pray together, go out together, do so many things together. When your child no longer finds excitement in such family activities, now probably wants to stay alone, wants to exclude himself from such activities, then it's something you should have a look at on why that is happening, especially if this is a child that has most of the time participated in such family gathering or family activities. Another point is when your child now suddenly always borrows or asks you or other family members for money, or sometimes even friends. This money, you don't see where it goes, where the spending goes into. So in such, that is one of the major concern as a parent, because when your child takes money, sometimes it can get to the point where he or she will start stealing money, and then you don't see any physical thing this child is doing with the money. Most of the time it points at drug or substance abuse. So when this is happening, please quickly take an action to stop it in track before it gets out of hand. Another point is when your child has no respect for the parent or family values. When the child knows that this is what we do in our house, this is how we do it, and this is what everybody has to adhere to, but all of a sudden the child starts going against such family rules and disrespecting everybody, especially the parent, then it's something you should sit down with your child and have a chat with to know why this is happening. Another point is when money and valuables start getting missing. When a child is engaged in drug or substance abuse, it involves lots of money. So when this child does not have access to the money, he can take anything valuable that he or she can lay his or her hands on and goes to use it to get the drug or the substance that he or she is using. So as such, when you notice that your valuables start getting missing, maybe your jewelries, phones, laptop, valuable things in the house start getting missing, and you can't point to who is taking them away, and if you have a child that you know that you've been observing some changes in him or her character, then you should have a deep conversation with the child to know why this is happening. Because taking away or stealing valuable things from the house and probably going to sell them to be able to get drugs or substance that he or she is using is something very dangerous. Another point I want to bring out is when you notice some unusual wraps or containers in your child's room or in the house generally. Maybe you start, all of a sudden you come and you see something you have never seen, maybe a container or a wrap of cigarette or Indian hemp or anything, something that is unusual from your child's room, then it's something you should sit your child and discuss and talk about it with him or her. Because it could be that your child brings in those things home to come and use, and then if it's not quickly handled, you know what it can become in future. If you have noticed many of the points I listed before, if you have noticed many of them in your child, then there is a good chance your child is engaged in drug or substance abuse, and it is better you handle it early enough to be able to stop it. And it will be of great good if you bring it up to his or her attention, so that you can have a deep discussion over it. If you've noticed he's spending too much and engaging on some of those, especially for the money, you should find out where all the spending is going to, why he or she is always broke. Ask him if he's being spent on drugs, and be ready for whatever answer you're going to get. If your child, because sometimes a child might be overburdened with what he or she is doing and might want an outlet. So if you now come out to ask the child, are you engaged in drugs? The child might decide to say yes. But sometimes, in many cases, most will not say the truth about it. So it's now left for you as a parent to find out how well you can get to know what exactly is going on. And in a situation where you think you can't get it, please seek professional advice. A professional will be able to decode if your child is just being evasive about the truth of the matter and what exactly your child is engaging. Then you'll be able to get all the necessary help to come early enough so that you'll be able to help the child before he becomes something you do not understand. I pray that we don't have kids that are going to drug or substance abuse. I pray that we'll have kids that will be able to control, kids that grow up to be the coolness of our eyes. And with that, I say thank you so very much for hanging in there, for being there with me. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell on notification to be notified when there's an additional video from us. And please do have a lovely week. Do stay blessed. Thank you. Bye bye.